Welcome to the Sparkle Sesh. I'm Suzanne Castle, your host and Chief Sparkle Officer. This is the show where bold conversations meet actionable inspiration. Every episode, we bring together powerhouse panelists to dive into the topics that matter most: leadership, resilience, branding, visibility, and everything else in between. It's all about big ideas, meaningful connections, and fresh strategies for ambitious women like you. So grab your favorite drink, pull up a seat, and let's get the conversation started. It's time to shine brighter, bolder, and better than ever. Welcome back to the Sparkle Sesh, where we say the things most people are scared to. We sprinkle a little sass, a little glitter on the grit while we're at it. And this episode, holy cow, it is not for the faint of heart, because today we're talking brave conversations. You know the ones. The conversations you rehearsed in your head 10 times, but still haven't had. The one where you speak the truth, you draw the line, you ask for the thing, or maybe you're calling your own self out. You've had a hard conversation maybe, or maybe you've avoided a conversation. Either way, it's brave. But here's the thing. A lot of us don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to ruffle the feathers. We don't want to ruin the vibe. And guess what? This is your sign. You're supposed to be listening today. You're supposed to be watching today, because those brave conversations, they don't just shift the vibe. They shift the room. They shift the result. They shift you. And to help us go really deep on this, two absolute forces of nature who know how to speak the truth with strategy, soul, and a little sparkle too. My first guest is a woman who sat in the boardroom and the sacred circle. She's helped generate over $87 million in client growth using a mix of ancient wisdom and business precision. Master astrologer, strategy queen, trusted authority for the new era. Welcome to the Sparkle Sesh, Kim Woods.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I am so excited to be here, and I can't wait to have this conversation.
I am delighted that you made time. I know you have a lot going on, and we are delighted and honored because Kim is a powerhouse in this space. If any of you know Kim, you will after this. Go check her out. She's major. And next up, a best-selling author, a leadership powerhouse who's here to prove that happiness isn't fluff, it's strategy. She's the creator of the happiness leadership method, the reason why so many high-achieving leaders are finally leading with clarity and energy and purpose. Let's give a sparkly welcome to Jessica Lyonford.
Thank you, Suzanne. I am so excited to be here. I love the energy already, and I just want to get in and talk about this because it's such important stuff.
It is. And brave conversations are hard to do. I know that, and I know that I like to avoid them too. They are hard, and that's why I couldn't wait to get both of you on this episode. So let's kick it off with this. What makes a conversation brave in your world? I want both of you to think about that, because you're coming at this a little bit differently from each other. You know, I believe that brave doesn't always mean loud. I tend to be loud. Let's face it, I'm a little dramatic. But sometimes brave conversations are soft, and sometimes brave conversations can feel scary. And honestly, brave conversations are sometimes the most powerful thing that we ever do. So Jessica, let's come to you first. Then Kim, I would love for you to respond. What makes a conversation brave in your world?
Yeah, I think this is such an important question because we tend to just assume it's whatever everyone tells us it is.
Oh, yeah.
Brave conversations, again, they are hard conversations, and they are hard because the way I look at them and the way that they've played out in my life and in the life of my clients is that brave conversations really require you to sacrifice, to give up that short-term comfort for the long-term alignment, for those long-term goals. And that's what makes them so hard and challenging, is we're not getting that short-term dopamine hit that we're so accustomed to, right? We're saying, no, we're going to table that. We're going to do the hard thing, knowing it's in the best interest of what we're trying to design for ourselves, of the lives we're trying to design, of the teams and businesses we're trying to design in the long term. And so I love that you said in the opening when we were talking about this, that brave conversations can be external. Like we have them all the time with the people around us. But a lot of times the bravest conversations we can have are the ones we have with ourselves. as
Oh, yeah.
leaders, as people, as women. Like, those are the hard, important conversations where we have to not sacrifice our
Right.
long-term dreams and goals for the now.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into that kind of inner alignment piece in just a minute. So put a pin there, because I think it is one of the toughest, bravest conversations that we ever have. And my work is all about that inner work that we do. So Kim, that's the perfect segue to you, because that's a lot of the conversation that you have with your clients is about that inner work. So what does that mean for you? What does that brave conversation look like for you?
Yeah, I usually look at it where there's going to be disappointment. And
Oh,
so we often will disappoint ourselves easily, readily, so naturally. That's our first go-to. Oh, it's not so bad. We're going to rationalize. It's not so bad. It's not a big deal. This person is good. Oh, it's not. It might just be me. Like, who knows what that inner voice is?
right.
But we know we need to disappoint. There's got to be disappointment. So different words than Jessica's using, but essentially the same thing. And I always come back to the people in my world and I say, but why are you so willing to disappoint yourself?
Mm.
Right? Because we're so willing to disappoint ourselves. And I'll ask, what if you weren't disappointing yourself? What would it look like?
Oh,
And then we walk through what the conversation needs to be.
that's really powerful. I hope everyone listening and watching, you're already probably taking notes. That brings up for me, you have to have questions about your role in whatever conversation you're having, whether it's with yourself, with someone else. And I know a lot of the women that I'm coaching, speaking with when I'm on a stage, it's watching people have this awareness that the settling factor, right? It's, what am I settling for? Am I settling for inner peace, anti-conflict at the expense of my own self? Right. I don't know if it's my age that I'm not willing to do that anymore, or if it's that I was taught something and I don't like that lesson anymore, or if just there's a dynamic shift that's happened. I don't know what it is, but what I am here to say is that it's not okay if I'm constantly sacrificing my inner peace on someone else's behalf,
Mm-hmm.
because that's also not honoring them either, right? Because I'm not me. And I just am not okay with that. And you're both shaking your head. So I know we're on to something here.
Yeah.
So I think let's go to that kind of inner alignment place. So one thing I know from my work, I think both of you consult, you coach as well. That hardest piece is that conversation that we have inside of our own selves. So Kim, let's start with you. Tell us, how do we trust that self-trust piece, that self-awareness? How does that play into the way that you approach tough conversations, maybe in business, in leadership, in life? But think or share with us maybe some practices. I know you have good beliefs and frameworks that you're teaching, but without that framework, that self-trust, that self-awareness, it all just, I think, dissolves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go to the point that it changed everything in my life, like literally, right? So here I am. Oh my God, I love working at Oracle. I'm in corporate. I'm like doing all the things. Everything's great. Not happy. I don't know. I'm not happy, right? So Jessica, I should have known you, right? Like, so there's that, or Suzanne, you, right? But we didn't know each other then. So and I'm pregnant. My first child. My son is born, and and people have kids, right? Like,
Right.
oh no, but he had major developmental issues, like real big time, right? I was so not following my inner voice. It became so apparent. Doctors were telling me certain things, therapists, all the things, and I was just swept up in it. And one moment I was in a gastroenterologist's office. He was like 3, and he's going to have an invasive procedure. And all of a sudden I was like, my intuition kicked in, thank God. I must have been screaming so loud because I'd been ignoring it so long, so out of alignment with everything. And it was like, no, go to the acupuncturist. Did. One day later, he was, completely fine on that piece. And that made me realize I didn't know myself. I didn't like myself. I didn't trust myself. That's my framework for all my work. I was so out of alignment, I didn't even know how to find myself.
Wow.
That changed everything. For me to sit there and say no to that doctor, I can still remember it. This was 20 years ago. I can still remember it. So obviously impactful. So changed my life, changed his life, changed everything. He's totally fine now. I mean, changed everything.
How hard was that for you though?
terrifying. It was so terrifying. I can't tell you, I was shaking because
sure.
think about this. My intuition had gotten to a boiling point. It was screaming in the room. I had been fighting it for so long. Now, was I trying to placate other people? No, I just didn't believe in myself at all. Right. So I was like 50 yards beyond the, misalignment piece.
Right.
And if it was because of mom and it was him, I think that was the reason I could finally say yes.
Right.
And then once I did everything, I mean, it took 8 years to rewire his brain. I mean, it was an odyssey that we had to walk through, and I had to continue to face that, continue to go to the edge, continue to be speaking my truth. Because if I hadn't done that, there's no way I could then say I'm a master astrologer in the Boston world, right? Like in the world of a bunch of, multimillionaires, billionaires, whatever, and be completely comfortable with that.
That's so fascinating. And to me, I'm sitting here and I know you, I love you, and you know that I honor your work. I mean, it's incredible. This is just my plug again. Please follow Kim. She'll change your life. She's changed my life and my business. And how powerful is it that a child changed the trajectory of your life, not just as a mom, but as a business boss babe. And because of that, you've changed thousands upon thousands of lives, Kim, because you were brave enough to have that conversation with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. And 20 years ago to stand up to traditional medicine.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
it
that's
was a thing.
yeah.
I was reading Merck manuals like at night to try to figure stuff out because there was no internet. There was no
Right.
place to go. I mean, the team of people I finally put together were like 10 of us in the room, and I finally was like, oh, we finally have the team. He was 5 years old. It took me 5 years to figure that out.
That's incredible. So Jessica, and see, y'all are going to be fast friends after this. I just know. I mean, see, it was a perfect alignment. So how do you do this? How do you self-trust? And you're in these spaces where you're in companies, you're pouring into leaders, you're trying to show them that happiness is so important to culture and leadership. But there's big trust, big awareness that has to play there. And if they're not willing to step into that arena, like it, yeah, I just don't, I can't even imagine how brave it is for you to be in that space. And then you're asking them to trust you and then be brave alongside you. That to me is super hard.
It is super hard. It is, it's interesting because I related so much to your story, Kim, in ways that we will not go into here, but we will definitely follow up. The confidence piece was always so hard for me. That is still, so my framework is all on the 8 pillars of happiness. They're the 8 skills that we have to practice if we want to get better and create more happiness in our lives and in our world. And of the 8 pillars, confidence is the one that is the least natural to me. And for a very long time, it was because I didn't actually understand what confidence was. And I think societally, we get the definition of confidence wrong, because the narrative is that you can be confident when you're the smartest, when you're the best at something, when you're the loudest in the room, when you have the biggest presence, when you take up the most space. That's confidence. That's the story of what it is.
Right.
And you trust yourself when you are confident in yourself. And so if you do not check those boxes,
Right.
It's really hard to trust that inner voice and that inner intuition, right? The inner wisdom that we all have. What I came to learn in the research and in living life and in working with all these amazing leaders is that that's not confidence. Confidence is actually believing that you have access to everything you need to succeed. Right? I don't have to do it all on my own.
Right.
Confidence is knowing I have the people and tools and I'm in the environments that are going to allow me to step up, allow me to use my gifts in the way that they were given to me as a gift for me personally, and the life experiences that only I have lived. So when we understand that confidence is an ecosystem, then we can start building out that ecosystem, and that allows us to develop that self-trust. But it is a practice. I still have to go through okay, I'm going in front of this group, this global organization that has, 20,000 employees, to talk to them about happiness. And I have to go through okay, who's in my ecosystem? what experiences have gotten me here to where I can do this. I know I am capable of being successful in this moment. What are all those stories that I can replay that prove that I can trust myself? And when I do, I show up better than when I doubt myself, because so much of my life has been about doubting myself. And if I replay those stories, then I can't go into a room and convince people that science and research shows us that there's this other way, healthier way, more sustainable way. So I have to constantly tell myself the stories of when I have trusted that inner wisdom and when it has worked out and shown up for me, because that's what allows me to show up for other people.
This is so, you're both such beacons of wisdom here. And, it's fascinating. A couple of months ago, Jessica happened to be there. I got a phone call. I'm not going to reveal all the things around this phone call. And I'm standing there and all the color left of my face, because this phone call was, you put things on your vision board, right? And I don't know about you, but look, I'm just going to be honest for a second. How many of you put something on your vision board and you're like, I really want this to come to pass, but you kind of think it's not ever going to come to pass, right?
100%.
Yeah, 100%, right? So, but this thing actually came to me, right? And in a most unexpected way, in the middle of trying to facilitate a retreat and get it started, and I get a phone call, and all the color left on my face, and people thought something was wrong, and it was wrong, because it was a disconnect, right? You're like, is this happening? Wait, I don't understand. And I could not literally have the conversation with myself, and I had to make a decision. And both of you know, like, my work is in decision making. Like, that's what I do. I help people make decisions fast. And I couldn't even have the conversation that needed to happen with me, which was brave, to make a brave decision for my own self. And I love how both of you were talking about, you have to advocate. Both of you talked about that differently. You might have to do some research. You have to understand, what does confidence look like for you, right? And it's almost like, without everybody else around you, you have to shut out noise and get back to, what does this mean in Kimness and Jessica-ness? And so that internal compass is so huge. And teaching that is important, but also it's different person to person, because my compass is different than Kim's, it's different than Jessica's, it's different for whoever's listening or watching right now. It's different. And if you are constantly surrounded by noise and people that don't need to be around you, and you're distracted 24/7, if you don't ever get to put, if you're not ever outside without everything around you, I mean, take your earbuds out, for God, please take your earbuds out. And if you don't ever still, how do you expect to have a brave conversation with yourself, much less something you're trying to have, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't understand why society seems to think that they can do these things, and yet they're plugged in all the time.
That do you want me to jump in, or okay? Yeah. Oh no, 100%. Because you're speaking my language, baby. Okay. So one thing I do want to just make sure that we kind of say, right? Like, I just want this to be said. When you are anticipating, when you are leaning into growth, when you are wanting something more than you currently have right now, your mind is going to do the freak, because growth is uncomfortable. Growth is unknown. Growth is unfamiliar, whatever word you want to use, right? It's the unword, right? And so I tell everybody, and this is what I want to tell everybody in this audience, is that, first of all, if you know Suzanne, you're going through growth, period, end. If you know Jessica, you're going through growth. If you know me, you're going through growth, right? So every single person who's listening is going through growth. So you're going to be on that edge of holy crapness at some point in the next week. And so at that point, Suzanne just said, like, she had to make an immediate decision that was a holy crap moment. And she made a really good one, like in all the things, right? I can tell you a story that, like, next week I am going to be in a room of billionaires as their peer. And so I like, with Jessica, like, talking about confidence, I'm like, well, if I don't feel totally confident, at least I can be curious, right? So, like, so I'm like, that's part of my ecosystem, not my language, Jessica's, right? But yeah, so I have trepidation going into that room. And so you can look at my experience, you can look at all the things that I did and all the things and you'd be like, really, Suzanne or Jessica or Kim, they lack confidence, they have trepidation, they yes, because we're undergoing growth. We
That's
are
right.
always going to be facing it. And I love what Jessica said, like your ecosystem of who you are. You faced it like this before. You can face it again. You just have to, draw on whatever resources it is. One of those resources is
That's right.
whatever
Yes.
that means for you. I've got a lot of active, high-performing people. I do not tell them to go sit in lotus position and meditate. They would kill me. It would be like Harry Carey over here in my world, right? So you can take a walk, you can take a run, you can go talk to a tree, you can go play with your puppy, you can go, laugh with a child. Like there's so many ways for you to unwind, because when your mind is doing the freak,
Yep.
going and sitting and going da, 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 is not going to work.
That's right.
But you do need silence. You do need space. You do need the capacity to say, is this a yes? Is this a no?
Right.
If either, then why?
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. I think it's important. And Jessica, in your pillars of happiness, where does that fall?
Yeah. So, well, it's interesting. It falls into quite a few. Happiness and, brave conversations, all of these, you've already said it. They are different for each and every one of us. Like a brave conversation for me might look like a really easy conversation for someone else.
Exactly.
Right. But to me, it's me stepping into new growth, me stepping into discomfort, me choosing those things. The one thing, as you were talking, Kim, I love it. My life and my business completely changed when I started taking walks. Ooh. And not in like, I'm going to take an hour and a half walk every morning when I need to think, I give myself permission to go take a 10-minute walk around the block. Yes. And I do these. My neighbors probably see me a dozen times a day. Right. Because I go out and lap the block without headphones, without my phone, but it is my time with myself so that I can process, so that I can figure out my next step, my next move. Now that doesn't work for everyone, but having a tool like that in your pocket gives you that time and space to really tap into the inner wisdom that, again, the world is so noisy. Yes. That, for the longest part of my life, I was leaning on everyone else's wisdom. I was following everyone else's success plans. And it wasn't until I started doing that and carving out space for myself that I really started designing my life on my terms. And that's what I'm trying to help all these leaders do. Design the business to work the way that you want it to work, to the way it works for other people, the way it works for, in the ecosystem that your business is trying to operate in. It looks different for everyone, but we have to have the silence and understanding to know where our alignment is, because that's how you practice the authenticity and the confidence and the purpose and all those things that lead up to happiness.
Right. And I believe that when you are moving your body, former dancer here, when you're moving your body, you're activating a different part of your brain so that the neurons that you need to think about a brave conversation or to ideate, they can do the hard work, because your brain is now like, okay, we're going to walk. We have to modulate your heart. We have to, make sure your oxygen is going to all the right places. But most of us aren't doing that. And it's just so powerful. So if you're watching or listening and you're facing a brave conversation, maybe go take a walk and see what happens from that. I love that. I love that tip. And you both talked about it. So good. Okay, let's do story time for a minute. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about personal development around brave conversations and the internal stuff, but I want to shift to business. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's one conversation you didn't want to have?
Oh, okay. Just one, Suzanne? You have hours? There's a million conversations I haven't wanted to have.
There's a qualification here, but everything changed when you did. So maybe it was a bold boundary. Maybe it was a business pivot. I want you both to pull back the curtain here. Okay. So Kim, can I go to you first?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to say before, you asked that question, I wanted to talk about the first time I had to fire somebody, but nope. I want to do when I had to burn my business to the ground. It's more recent, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you're going to talk about this, by the way.
What was that?
I'm so glad you're going to talk about this.
Yeah. So here I am. This is my third business. I know how to do leadership. I've done it for like a million years. So here I am in the online personal brand space, doing my astrology, doing the things. I like literally clients raining from the sky. It's all beautiful. So I, go out and I create a team. Like, I know how to do this, right? Like, great. And it was March of 2023, and I'm walking to brunch with my husband, and I find myself saying, I think I need to fire the whole team. What is happening right now? I still get chills when I think about it. Right? And I was like, and like literally, shock and awe in my own body, because I had no idea that I was getting to that point. Things felt too heavy. My business was like, law of diminishing returns. They were struggling, like things were going in the wrong direction. And yet I kept thinking, no, it's going to turn. It's going to turn. It's going to turn. There wasn't any particular thing. They weren't doing anything wrong. I wasn't doing anything wrong. This was not the best model. So the next day, we talked about, my husband's a strategist too. We talked about it. The next day, I literally looked at my admin and I said, I think we need to get rid of the whole team. She literally looked at me. She goes, okay, what are we going to do? And we took the next 3 months and I basically then asked a different question. I said, okay, if not that, then what? And when you clear a room, like you redesign a room, you can either redesign it with everything in it, or you can clear everything out and then say, what's worthy to come back in?
Yeah.
That's what I did. And so, and I had to get over myself of, damn, I'm a leader. What is the online space? What are my clients? And my husband looked at me, that first conversation, he goes, they're not going to care. They don't care. And no one cared. But I had to get over myself, the numbers that I was achieving, the success that I was achieving, like all those things. So here we are, we're just rolling into 2 years later. I'm infinitely happier. Jessica, I'm infinitely happier. Yay. Right? And I feel as if, if you then go in from a scalability perspective and all the things, it was absolutely the right thing to do. But it let's just be perfectly clear. It completely blew. It was terrible, but it was absolutely necessary.
And I don't want to lose that point. So, for everybody listening, sometimes the brave conversation in the short term totally, completely sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And having the will to stay in the sucky place, the muck and the mire, has big returns. Right? Yeah. Sometimes we just exit too quickly from that yucky, dark cave. Mm-hmm. Right? Thank you, Kim. That's everything. I just got lots of goosebumps. So thank you for that. Okay, Jessica, what kind of curtain pulling are you going to do?
Oh, yeah, I know. So this is interesting because I came in with like 3 or 4 stories, and it never works out that those are the stories you're actually going to end up sharing. Isn't that funny how that always works out? I want to talk about the brave conversation that I still have with myself on a pretty regular basis in building this business, because I came from a first career in marketing and advertising, and super successful, was running global accounts, like doing commercial shoots, doing all the things, it was laid out for me by other people. It was not a career I ever consciously chose. It was just like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. And so, when I veered off to start my own business, when I said, I am miserable here, I did all the hard work to figure out what it was that actually lit me up. I started building this business that doesn't exist anywhere else. I don't know another business that does what I do the way I do it and has built it the way I've built it. And part of that is because, I'm building the airplane as I'm flying. 8 years in, I'm still building the airplane as I'm flying it, right? That's one of the joys of being an entrepreneur. We get to pivot. But the brave conversation that I have to have to myself regularly is that I get to choose what pieces from that previous career I want to bring with me and which ones I want to leave in the past.
Ooh.
And I get to dial that up and down. And that is a really brave conversation, because when I left that space the first time, I say I broke up with advertising 3 times now. I don't look at it as a breakup anymore. Now it's this relationship that, we work together when we need to. but I have to regularly have that conversation with myself, with my partner, because when you have your own business, it does affect everyone around you.
Right.
But the brave conversation is choosing myself and choosing that long-term vision I have of making happiness accessible in ways that are really meaningful for more people. But it's shedding pieces of me that I never thought I would have to shed. And honestly, these days it's picking up pieces that I never thought I'd be picking up again. And I'm picking them up with joy, and I'm picking them up with enthusiasm. And it's all a part of choosing that long-term vision over the short-term comfort, which is such, like, we all want that comfort.
Yep.
We don't want to have to wake up and say, okay, who am I going to call from my past and try to explain that I'm a happiness consultant now, right?
Right.
But those conversations, when I do pick up the phone, everyone's like, oh my gosh, yeah, we need that.
Yes.
You would think it gets easier, but it's the brave conversation about choosing how you want to show up each and every day, and how you want to use your gifts out in the world. And it's a conversation, again, I have it every day with myself. Suzanne helps me with it a lot, which is great.
Yay. Well, you know, I love the way that both of you approach this, because I think, you know, I'm in the middle of, I think a lot of times, and I don't want to offend anyone, I feel like I'm a crazy person, and I'm saying crazy because I'm on like a crazy circus, like the crazy circus where there's lots of things going on all the time. And you don't know which ring to be looking at. Right. And I'm in the middle of launching 2 new businesses, you know, because I only have 4. So let's have 6. Right. Because that sounds sane and doable, right? For everyone listening right now. Yeah. Right. And that's why I get a lot of multipreneurs who come into my sphere. I think I'm like attracting them all. And one is with my partner, Prince Charming, and we had this fabulous idea. But one came out of nowhere and at a retreat. And, you know, so it's that brave conversation. Again, I forever wanted to do deeper work with Disney after I had a little stint, and then wanted to do more. And now here's an Imagineer who came to me and said, I have been waiting for 7 years for the right person, and you're my person. And we literally are developing a business together. And so the brave conversation to that was, is this what I want?
Yeah.
After saying I wanted it forever.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Right.
So sometimes the brave conversation is, I've said I've wanted this all along. Now it's here. Do I really still want it? And so both of you talked about that. And I think some of the hardest work right now is with AI and the accessibility of the global sphere, is making sure you're staying true to that little nugget that's deep down inside of you. So that ongoing conversation of, what is Suzanne? You know, and I talk about my sparkly takeover of the universe, but it's true. And I can't do that if I'm not true.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If I'm not true. So Kim, you have really cool, unique projects going on right now. And this is airing in July, and you just had this giant launch that I would love for you to talk about for just a moment. And I know you, if people follow you, you give, girl, I mean, you give so much value. You have all this goodness. I mean, if people just follow you, like you are telling them how to show up in this whole new way. So talk to us a little bit about your work and how people can follow you, because I would just love for people to just get everything they can from you.
Yeah. So here, the reason why having this conversation today is so important is because everything's changing, and you know that, you know, at some level you've hit it, right? So, but I'm saying everything is changing. Nothing is going to be the same. So when I predicted COVID in 2020, I had said the world will never be the same again. And then in 2021, 2022, I was like, look, we have hands because we don't know what we're doing, right? Like we had no idea. And then we started to find our footing, kind of, sort of, but then we had to keep asking ourselves, is this real? Is this real? Right? So now we hear 2025, 2026, vroom, vroom, vroom. Things are going to go faster than the speed of light, right? So the juggling of the balls and all the things are it's a big deal, and everything is different. Because of all of that, yes, I have a podcast. Yes, I work with people. Yes, I speak a lot and all the things, but I wrote a book, right? And so, and I say that it's my 9th book, right? So I'm not new to this world. I've got to tell you, it is the best thing I've ever done in my life. It is next level. This book talks about you. Oh, and then it talks about you. And then it talks about what you, right? Putting yourself in the center. It talks about getting that self-awareness, that knowing yourself, talks about how to work with your power, being in the right rooms, how to like yourself, and then how to trust yourself, which is a money shot, everybody.
That's
right?
right.
So I go through it all. Yes, I'm an astrologer. It's near and dear to me. I do weekly forecasts, monthly forecasts, all the things. I've got to tell you, it's a 300-page book and only 30 pages are astrology. That's why this is so amazing. It's based on my 6 signatures of how you enter the world. I give at least 40 pages for each one of the signatures. I mean, this book, you walk away with you. I don't want you to read the book. I want you to remember who you are.
Exactly.
That's my whole thing. So I am all about this right now.
And you have been working on this for a very long time and really amassing your wisdom and your business acumen into this container. And so I if you're listening, if you're watching, this is a valuable piece that you don't want to miss. So please, please, please. And we're going to drop in the show notes how to access Kim, where to follow Kim, and this particular resource. So be sure you're looking down, go grab the show notes so that you can directly get this resource from Kim. Yeah. And Jessica, I mean, like I put like right there's our book. Like just one of the authors of this book. And it's bestseller, I mean, several times over, but you have another best-selling book, your Happy Leader Playbook too. And you're doing all these things, like just like Kim, you're on these major stages, right? You're changing people's lives. Tell us a little bit about your work. And I know you've got a freebie. Again, go to the show notes, people. You're missing out if you're listening or watching and you're not looking at show notes for every Sparkle Sesh episode because every guest gives all kinds of goodies. So tell us a little bit about what we need to know about your work.
Yeah, so my book came out in Q1, end of Q1 this year. The Happy Leader Playbook, it's a science-backed guide to supercharging energy and impact. It is a leadership book, but it is not like every other leadership book you find, and that it is a leadership book that is centered around you as a whole person, not just you at work. Because, you know, even though the common belief is we turn off who we are at home when we walk into the doors of our office, that is not actually how we work as humans. Right. And so this book speaks to how to create more positive energy and impact at home, at work, and in your relationships. It has over 150 science-backed power-ups, which are tools that I use, exercises, activities to help you supercharge your energy, to help you create more happiness in your life. And I speak to it all as tools, as happiness is a skill. And I do that because different tools work for different people. We've talked about that a lot here. We all need different things. And so when we look at it as skills, then we can find the way that works for us to practice those skills. I also, in the show notes, I am offering up my Power Source Guide, which is, it's this wonderful little exercise and guide that allows you to, and I love using it before brave conversations, but you can use it before you're doing anything big and that feels important to you. And it's really about choosing what kind of energy you want to walk into that moment or into that room with. And really claiming that, syncing it with your inner wisdom, syncing it so that you are in alignment when you step into these spaces so that you can actively start designing a life you love, a life that works for you, and a life that has impact beyond you, because we all want that impact piece in whatever that looks like and means for us. And then I have my monthly Happy Leader Power Hour, where leaders just come together and we absorb each other's energy and cheer each other on. And so all of that can be found on my website too. So I have a lot going on. I love it.
Like both of these women are energy shifters. And that's why they needed to come together on this episode, because having a brave conversation is an energy shifter in your own self. For the person you're having it with, you are literally changing the quantum dynamics of what's going on. From ion to ion and atom to atom and everything that's going on cellularly in your body, you are changing that connection, which is why I had to have these two women on this particular episode. So, okay, ladies, we're going to bring it home here. Okay. So for the woman or man who's listening, who knows there's a conversation that needs to be had, maybe they're hesitating, right? Maybe I want you to give a shift that person needs to make today to show up with more clarity, maybe more courage. So give the nudge, a little mindset. Maybe in my world, I'd call it a sparkle powered sentence starter, right? Whatever that person needs to move forward, a little, goody gumdrop as we close this out. So Jessica, I'm going to come to you, and then Kim.
Yeah. I would say don't focus all your attention and energy on the immediate response that you're fearing. Focus on what you're trying to design and build for yourself in the long term.
Ooh, I love that. That's good.
Yeah. And based on that, I'm going to follow up. After you do that, ask yourself, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do?
Ooh. See? Oh my gosh. All right. So listen up, peeps. If today lit a fire under your seat or maybe even gave your heart a holy little nudge, I don't think that's an accident. Brave conversations, they are never, ever easy. But as we have talked about today, they're always worth it. So you got to listen in on our 3 perspectives. So whether you need to tell the truth, maybe you need to take up some space, or maybe finally say, no thanks. I want you to remember this. You are allowed to be clear. You are allowed to be direct, and you are allowed to protect your peace and still shine bright. And you never, ever have to lose your sparkle to find your voice. So if you love this episode, I hope you'll share it with your boldest girlfriend or the one that's about to be, maybe. So subscribe, leave a review, and I'm going to see you next time on the Sparkle Session. Until then, keep shining, keep speaking, and keep being the woman who says it like she means it. I'm Suzanne. I'll see you next time.